So in the next 3 videos, we're going to break up example 2, and I actually kind of have them broken up here so you'll kind of see as we go, of going through an example through those 5 steps that we just learned in the previous video. So first, let's read through the problem to understand what we're going to be doing. So at the beginning of February of 2019, the president had a 39.9% approval rating. In May of 2019, we wanted to determine if the approval rating had increased, and we're going to use a 5% significance level. So let's first just figure out what these numbers are. So this 39.9%. Notice that there's nothing about a sample being taken. This was his approval rating in February of 2019. So when I read through that, it's making me really think that my P is going to be then 0.399. We want to see if this approval rating has increased. So what that's going to actually help me figure out is my alternative hypothesis, because it's telling me my goal, my direction. And it says we want to use a 5% significance level. Remember, significance level is just your alpha, so a fancy name for that. So 5% in decimal form is just going to be the 0.05. So just from reading my setup, those are the things that I already know. So now if I go through and do my first 2 steps of my hypothesis test, well, my first step is to figure out my null and my alternative hypothesis. And although we generally write them this way, with HO on top and HA below, generally it's actually easier to figure out your alternative hypothesis first, because that's what we're reading up here. We want to see if the approval rating had increased. So if it's increased, P is going to be then bigger, that's gone up, bigger than what? What it had been. So it was this 39.9%, and we want to see if it's now bigger than that value. Once I have my alternative hypothesis, I really have no choice in my null hypothesis. My null hypothesis is always going to be P equal, and then it's the exact same number. So you're going to have the same symbol here, the same number here, and this one is always an equal sign. Our second step, if I go back here, is this decision rule. And as I've said before, this stays exactly the same. The only thing I'm going to actually now get to plug in is I have an alpha that I can plug in a number for. So our step 2 is going to be to reject the null hypothesis and instead believe the alternative hypothesis if that p-value, or again, probability, is less than my alpha, and my alpha is 0.05. Now the reason why I chose just to do the first 2 steps before going any further is really those first 2 steps should be done before you've even taken a sample. I know what their current approval rating was. I know what I'm trying to test, so why I'm going out to collect data, and I've already determined what I consider to be a small probability before I've even collected data. I do strongly suggest going ahead and watching the next 2 videos to finish up this example though, but this one again is just to break up those first 2 steps to help emphasize that those are done before we have data.